There are some games with extraordinary graphics and visuals that impress us to this day. Here are 10 old games with outstanding graphics. In this list, I included great-looking games released before 2012 that still hold up today. The entries are games that have a beautiful art style or high visual fidelity for the time, and also games that combine both those aspects. At first, we will talk about BioShock. BioShock was a landmark game when it came out in 2007, and it was a great game. The underground future city of Rapture was different from how games usually build their worlds, but it was a nice change. There are a lot of things about the game that are really cool. The lighting effects and of course the effects of water and wet surfaces were especially well done. If you want to play BioShock games now, you should get the updated BioShock, the collection. However, you can't deny how great the first game looked in 2007, and it still looks great today. Then the next one on our list is Far Cry 2. Far Cry 2 from 2008 is more of a tech test than a game that shows off how good the Dunia engine is. Even now, the gameplay and gun controls are still very good, and the game is still a lot of fun. But what's most amazing is the way it looks. Since the game takes place in Africa, the lights and colors are dark and dry. I thought it went very well with the game. Here, you should also talk about the backgrounds, physics, effects, and shadows. For the time, the textures and backgrounds were especially good. They were sharp, clear, and crisp. And of course, Far Cry 2's graphics and physics haven't been topped by any other game in this series. Now let's talk about Crysis. The great game Crysis from 2007 is a natural choice for a list like this. It takes place on an island in the tropics and the map is not closed. Aside from the bright and beautiful lighting, the game's graphics, effects, and especially its physics are still very good. Like Far Cry 2, Crysis can be thought of as a sort of tech test for the CryEngine. But the game was also a lot of fun to play. Our next game is Fear. In my pieces, I talk a lot about the game Fear, and for good reason. Even though it came out in 2005, Fear is still a great scary FPS game. It has one of the best bad guys in all of video games. Most games look good because they have green forests and lots of sunshine, but Fear uses technology that makes darkness and shadows look so good. Basically, it's a scary game with a lot of darkness and shadows, and the way it handles light and dark is just amazing. The effects and beauty of the game's particles are also very good. When there's a gunfight, there's chaos, and the amount of broken things and damage is still amazing. Now we will discuss the Mirror's Edge. Mirror's Edge, which came out in 2009, is still one of the best running games ever. Mirror's Edge, Catalyst did not live up to what was expected of it, but the first game is still very good. As you move quickly through the city's roofs, you don't have much time to notice how clean and detailed the textures are. But the lights and colors of the game stand out, and that's the best thing about how the game looks. Now we have Dead Space. The first Dead Space game, which came out in 2008, was a great horror game. It's safe to say that it's the best sci-fi horror game ever made. This is another game that uses dark shadows and moody lighting to make the player feel like they are really there. Back in the day, the future setting of the game and the strange enemies made it a sight to view, and it's still a great game to play today. Now let's talk about Red Dead Redemption. Red Dead Redemption 2 came out in 2018 and it is, in a word, a classic. But if you look at the first game, which came out in 2010, you can't deny how good it looks. The setting is dirty and bright, giving the game a Western feel. This fits very well with the game's story and idea, and it really does feel like the Wild West. I like the version of the West in Red Dead Redemption better than the one in RDR2. Even now, the graphics and shadows look great, and it's still a great game to play. Moving forward, we have Battlefield, Bad Company 2. Bad Company 2 came out in 2010 and is one of the best first-person shooters ever. It's because the landscapes could be destroyed, and of course, the images were very good for the time. The game doesn't even look bad by today's standards, as the picture shows. But the best parts of the story come out during the gunfights. Everything can be broken, and there is a crazy amount of trash and wreckage flying around. It's not as well known as it should be. If you haven't played it yet, you should do so as soon as possible. Game under discussion is Batman, Arkham Asylum. The first game in the Arkham series was Batman, Arkham Asylum. Even now, this game is almost the right way to play. The graphics are still in great shape. The moody, dark lighting fits the game well and is done perfectly. The game takes place in Arkham Asylum, which is also the name of the game. This is probably the best setting for an Arkham game. It wasn't as open as the other games, but back in 2009, it looked ridiculously good. The 3 books can be found in the Batman, Arkham collection. Next, we will talk about Mafia 2. Mafia 2 is a great game that doesn't get enough attention, and I love it very much. I'm sure you'll love it just as much as everyone else who has played this great game. The game takes place in Empire City, which is an open-world area. Even though there aren't a lot of side tasks, the world is so beautiful and engaging for its time. Even though it was restored, the picture above is from the first form. At the beginning of the game, it's December and snow is everywhere. It's so pretty in the winter, and when the snow melts, it's even better. All over the map, there are a lot of accurate features. Mafia 2 will always be one of the best games about crime. Up next, we are going to discuss Grand Theft Auto 5. Grand Theft Auto 5 is 8 years old now, which is hard to believe, but the game shows no signs of slowing down. Players are still involved in the community, and the hacking scene keeps making great new material like GTA 5 Remastered. In short, the gas tank is still full. In terms of graphics, GTA 5 can still compete with newer PCs, which is a credit to the World Engine. Character models, landscapes, and of course, cars all look as good as they did when the game first came out. It's not easy to do that. Moving forward, our next game is Contra 3, The Alien Wars. This one takes us all the way back to the 16-bit era, when the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis were fighting to be the best game console. One of the most important games it had was a 16-bit sequel to the NES hit Contra series, which began with 3 games. It was also one of the craziest and most exciting guns ever made. Contra 3 still looks amazing even now thanks to its crazy explosions, trippy effects, huge boss fights, and fast-paced action. The whole game is one long bout of heartbeat packed into a cartridge, and even though it's almost 30 years old, it still looks good. Half-Life 2 is our next game in this list. Even though Half-Life shook up the FPS world, it wasn't until the sequel that it really became known as a master shooter. The second game was better than the first because Valve used the Source 2 engine, which made the graphics, models, and settings of the game much better. Even though graphics technology has improved a lot since Half-Life 2 came out, the name of the game still makes players stand up and give a salute. The game looks more modern than its 2004 release date might suggest thanks to its amazing lighting, textures, and environments. Our next game is Killzone 2. Killzone 2 is known for its controversial E3 clip, which wasn't even made with the game's finished engine. This made a bit of a stir, but when the last game came out, everyone forgot about it. Killzone 2 looked and still looks great. Even though the PlayStation 3 has been put out to pasture for a long time, this FPS game is proud of its roots. The dank, gloomy atmosphere, ominous lighting effects, industrial world backgrounds, and bone-crushing games are all still top-notch. Lastly, we will talk about Homeworld 2. The first Homeworld might be a fan favorite, but its textures and models are starting to show their age. The remastered pack, which was just released, did the game respect and also made the successor better for a new audience. But what about the first Homeworld 2? It's hard to put into words just how much this game looks different from the first one. Homeworld 2 is still one of the best and most beautiful space strategy games, even without the remastered version. Thank you for watching our video. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss any of the gaming goodness we bring straight to your screens.